Cero Miedo. Today we're going to take a look at the Do A Powerbomb trade paperback by Daniel Warren Spencer. It has a 168 page count and a cover price of $24.99. If you're looking to get yourself a Do A Powerbomb paperback, I get all my books from Organic Price Books, the best place to get your omnibus and other collected editions. Super fast shipping, bulletproof packaging, and amazing customer service. Use promo code DROCK to get $2 off your purchase at organicpricebooks.com and use DROCK Ship It Together to get 5% off a purchase of 3 or more books. Join the OPB family today. Link is in the description. Now let's get into this paperback review. Just a heads up before we get into this, I'm going to have a little bit of spoilers in this book, as I was a very big fan of this read. The hype was real. I'm a huge fan of this Do A Powerbomb series, and we're going to talk about the story a little bit more than we would usually. So the artist and the writer on this is Daniel Warren Johnson, and you have colors from Mike Spencer. Beautiful artwork throughout this entire trade paperback. It really immerses you in this pro wrestling world, and he did a fantastic job with the artwork and the storytelling. So you have Daniel Warren Johnson here on the story and the artwork, and then you have colors from Mike Spencer, and on the letters you have Russ Wooten. A little introduction here really about Daniel Warren Johnson's love for pro wrestling, and then it jumps right into issue 1 of Do A Powerbomb. So you have Lona Steelrose. She's the Tokyo Pro Wrestling Champion. Now she's set to defend her title against this heel wrestler Cobra Sun. Now during this match, a botch happens, and Cobra Sun accidentally drops Lona Steelrose on her head, breaking her neck and killing her in the ring. Lona Steelrose's daughter, Lona, unfortunately witnesses this accident from the crowd during this event and sees her mother die in the ring. So it jumps to a couple years later, and Lona actually is getting into the professional wrestling world herself. She has her uncle, Uncle Blood, sort of giving her guidance, but he doesn't really want to give her guidance because her father asked him not to, because he doesn't want her to get into this wrestling world. Well, Lona ends up meeting this man, Necroton, and Necroton is from this planet Valthar. He's been exiled after this huge war, and he just spent a bunch of time like watching TV, and one of the things that he found on TV that he enjoyed the most was pro wrestling. He absolutely fucking loves pro wrestling, and who doesn't blame him, man? Pro wrestling is fantastic. So she ends up meeting this dude. He's a necromancer, and he tells her that he's putting on this tag team tournament, this death life tag team tournament, and if you win, you get the championship titles, but even better, you can bring somebody who has passed away back from the dead, so you can get somebody back. So immediately Lona is like, I'm gonna do this tournament and I need to find a tag team partner. So she ends up going to Cobra Sun actually to try and get him to join her in the tag team, and that is where you find out that Cobra Sun is actually Jacob Steelrose. It's Lona's father. Now she doesn't know this at the time, and they will compete in this tag team tournament together with her unaware that Cobra Sun is actually her father. So they go to this crazy planet Valthar, where this dude Necroton just gets all these crazy tag teams together to compete in this just wild ass tournament of wrestling. Now he also thinks that wrestling is real on Earth, so like he has no idea that everything is kind of staged and whatnot, which is kind of hilarious to me throughout this. So here you have the tag team tournament bracket, all these different tag teams. Cobra Sun and Lona Rose are now known as Sun and Steel. That's the name that they're going to go by in this tournament. And then you have this this group here, the Orangabangs. They're just some orangutan wrestlers. You got this group called Pizza Party, then Lucha Bots, Puro Pack, the Knights of Rhine, Devil Doers, and also FIZO. Fuck Your Stupid Opinions it stands for, which is kind of gives you them FTR vibes. They have a pretty emotional story themselves. Each one of these tag teams too has a reason why they're competing in this. The Orangabang team ended up losing their sister somehow. This FIZO team, both of those people were parents that have lost their children, so they teamed up together to go into this tournament to try and bring one of their children back to life. So everybody involved in this tournament has, you know, good intentions of trying to bring somebody that they lost back to life. And it just gets into some crazy, crazy wrestling. So you have the Knights of Rhine here wrestling the Sun and Steel team. Very, very detailed when it comes to the wrestling throughout this book. You get the sick German suplex here. Very, very good artwork. I love like the sound effects in the background. It gives a lot of motion and action in all of these panels, which is just really awesome to see. You can tell that Daniel Warren Johnson is a huge wrestling fan. So you have FIZO coming out. They're going to wrestle this one tag team. And it turns out that's actually Lona Steelrose's uncle. Uncle Blood is also wrestling in this tournament to try and bring Ua Steelrose back from the dead as well. But unfortunately, during that match, the FIZO team being really wild, they end up actually going after the bell. And they actually paralyze her uncle in this match. So getting on to the next match, it's going to be Sun and Steel versus FIZO. This is the Death Life Championship match here between the two tag teams. And because FIZO went so hard on Uncle Blood, Cobra Sun and Lona Steelrose, they go to Necroton and they say, yo, we want this to be a hardcore match. Falls count anywhere. It's going to be a brutal battle between these tag teams. So you get to the ring, it's a crazy match. There's tables, there's ladders, there's chairs, there's barbed wire, there's tacks. It's your straight up ECW moment. ECW, ECW, ECW. Fantastic stuff, man. Love that Daniel Warren Johnson threw all these elements into wrestling. You get the superplex off the top rope into a giant pile of steel chairs. And while all this mayhem is going on, Cobra Sun's mask gets ripped. And Lona Steelrose sees that it's Jacob, her father, who is actually Cobra Sun. So it's revealed to her that she's been wrestling with her father to try and bring her mother back from the dead in this crazy moment in the series, man. With all the chaos going on in the ring, Sun and Steel end up losing this match to FIZO. But FIZO had made a pact before that if they had won the tournament, they would both fight each other, and whoever won would be able to bring their child back to life. Now, in a crazy turn of events, both of the members of FIZO end up dying, and the winners of this match then are Sun and Steel. Sun and Steel win the match, and they believe that they're going to bring Ua Steel back to life. But of course, being the shady character necromancer himself, the Necroton, he doesn't have the power actually to bring her back to life. But he does have a suggestion of who does have the power, and the person that has the power, of course, why wouldn't it be, is God himself. So in the end of this, you're going to get Sun and Steel wrestling God in a handicap match for Heaven's Gate Pro Wrestling. So they're going to wrestle God, man, and it's just an all-out wild-ass brawl. So much attention to detail on the different wrestling maneuvers used throughout this, which is awesome. I like the fact that Cobra Sun and Lona Steelrose do like a modified version of the Doomsday device from the Legion of Doom, one of my favorite all-time tag teams. But they try to pin God, but of course he kicks out and he starts laying double suplexes, and he hits his finisher on Sun and Steel of the Pillars of Golgotham. So of course, God is the winner of this tournament. How are you going to defeat God? They did try their best, but they won't be able to bring Ua Steelrose back from the dead. But God, being God himself, the Almighty, he does at least let Lona Steelrose relive a memory with her mother, Ua Rose. And of course, she's been sitting in the crowd this whole time, rooting her daughter on throughout this tag team tournament. Beautiful story. I love pro wrestling, and you can tell with all the attention to detail, Daniel Warren Johnson loves pro wrestling as well. It's such a heartwarming story, super sad in moments. You have twists and turns, you have high-flying action, high stakes, and just wrestling goodness. This series gets a perfect score from me. Let me know what you think about Do a Powerbomb down in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.